Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, a big week last week in Harrisburg. We have a new plan to deal with transportation, a lot more funding than Governor Corbett recommended. Plus, what are we going to do about the Turnpike Commission? Some lawmakers think it should be folded into PennDOT. And then it's time for our financial literacy update. Actually, it's Financial Literacy Update Month. We're going to give you some good tips about how to save money and how to protect your financial interests. All of that following these words.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Oh, it was a pretty big week in Harrisburg last week. Lots going on nationally. We're going to skip that. That's been covered by the national press. Joining me is a duo. I like that. A duo of the state's leading reporters. A new guy, his first time on the show, Steve Esack from the Allentown Morning Call. Steve, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're glad to have you here. And, of course, Robert Swift, the veteran historian and journalist with Shamrock-Newspaper. Robert, as always, welcome. All right, Robert, I'm going to start with you. Here we go. Now we've got about a dozen Republican lawmakers last week came forward and said, let's get rid of the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Am I right? And they want to fold it, just let PennDOT, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, operate it. Do I got that right?
That's right. And they want to have a special committee to try to take care of the Turnpike debt, and with the governor and legislative leaders on it. And what this is this group is saying that the Turnpike, which is beyond reform, and that I think Representative Mike Verb said, you can't cut the tumor out. He used that phrase, and they're referring to a grand jury, state grand jury report about a pay-to-play culture that led to at least 8 people being charged with corruption charges because of that. So that's what they're saying. Hey, it's time to. Yeah,
Steve, this would have been before you started covering. But I mean, I think it was sort of rumored is not quite the word, or understood that there was lots of this pay-to-play going on. Robert and others were certainly aware. You didn't. But that 80, I think it was 85-page grand, 88, okay, grand jury. I mean, it just teemed with stuff that made your eyes roll about the practices at the commission, right?
Well, it did. I grew up in Philadelphia, and everyone
knew. So nothing should shock you.
Nothing shocks me. But everyone knows what goes on in the Turnpike Commission, how you become a toll worker. It is who you know in government. And the Morning Call back in 2004 had a series on a lot of these issues that were part of the grand jury or brought up in the grand jury. So a lot of this, and that's what Representative Oberlander was saying, was the grand jury is just the latest example of what everyone has known has been going on at the Turnpike Commission for decades. And as Robert said, it is just there's lawmakers who think it is you can't reform it. It's just infested.
Now, look, you've covered so many of these stories over the years. When the 88-page presentment came out, and you looked at it, and I looked at it as you all did, and you see a lot of the relationships were with not the House of Representatives here, where House Republicans have proposed, but with senators. That's right. One of them, a guy you covered, two guys you covered for years. One currently, in prison, mentioned by indirect. Go ahead.
Senator, former Senate Democrat leader Robert Mello facing charges. Another former Senate Majority Leader Bill Lincoln, who resigned. He wasn't charged, but he testified under immunity and he resigned from the commission.
He was a member of the commission,
and he just resigned, last month.
Of the Turnpike Commission.
And the thing was that the Senate has traditionally, they have to confirm the governor's nominee, so they have the traditional power, and the report suggested it was a cash cow for the Senate, political cash cow. The House members have always been somewhat jealous of that.
Right.
So they're the ones biting at the bit to get rid of it. The Senate doesn't want to do it.
So that's what I was going to say. Steve, the one thing I would say, if you read the presentment, and it looks like what was going on, is that to get these lucrative contracts, contributions were made to certain lawmakers oriented more towards the Senate. Do I got that right? Go ahead.
That is correct, but the grand jury report didn't name the senators, nor did it name the governors or anything like that. Say gubernatorial candidate 1 or 2, or that kind of thing. So you can read between the lines. It's easy. You can former Senator Vince Fumo's name's not mentioned in there, but he's identified in ways that it can't be anyone but him.
And he's currently in federal prison, as is former Senator Mello, charged with different things, correct, at different times. All right, we're going to run to a break. We come back. We have a huge new transportation bill for maybe the first time in decades. We're on the cusp, it looks like, of maybe making a major investment in roads and bridges. I'm going to ask our two journalists about the proposal and what they might do with the money and where it all stands after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania Business Council Education Foundation, educating citizens and business leaders about important public policy issues and civic affairs. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by BetterSaferRoads.com. To voice your support for safer highways and less traffic congestion, visit BetterSaferRoads.com. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, welcome back. Well, look, now we've been talking on this program for maybe about 2 years about this whole important series of ideas that have come forward about Pennsylvania transportation funding. We have this huge need for roads, bridges, and particularly roads and bridges. Some argue mass transit. It's a subject that's been before the legislature. There have been at least 3 gubernatorial commissions or legislative commissions that had looked at this. Steve, we have a new plan from Senate Transportation Committee, John Rafferty. He's a Republican from Montgomery County. He actually wants to spend more money than Governor Corbett proposed. Give us the outlines of that plan.
Well, that plan is about $1 billion more than Governor Corbett proposed, and Senator Rafferty would do that by increasing the fees for your license, your registration, tacking on a 100 to 300 surcharge onto certain type of traffic violation tickets. And
so you don't be careful, you're not going to be speeding, right?
Exactly.
Pennsylvania.
There's already surcharges already.
We're going to have some more. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're looking at major surcharges of up to $300 to speed.
Wow.
Yeah, so you better know where your troopers hide, on the 78. So it is it is a lot more money than the governor has proposed, and Senator Rafferty's plan also does what the Governor Corbett had proposed, and that is uncapping the so-called wholesale, oil franchise tax, which is
$1.25, I think now.
Yeah, based on
you pay $1.25. Anybody? Have you paid $1.25?
And they did make the point that it is so low, and it's not tied to inflation.
Now, Governor Corbett's original plan didn't call for license and registration fees. He seems to be open to this, and I noticed that the Transportation Secretary, who we've had on this program on a number of occasions, Barry Shoke, was at this press conference.
Yes.
Now, would you surmise? Go ahead. Would you surmise?
Broadly, but he loves it, but obviously he had to see what was the start of the discussion, like they always do. We could tell that that's where he would like to go. They had more people on that stage for this thing. I thought they were going to fall off. There were so many. They had the Transportation Committee chairs of the four, which is where you need to start with this stuff.
Right.
And you had all this big, huge coalition. You had people in bicycle riders, because there's some money in there for
bicycle
bike trails and rails and
labor and business on the same stage in this state.
They were packed in there.
Not common. That's right. Well, look, I read some reports, Steve, that said the House is probably more the problem with this than the Senate, because there are a lot of Republican lawmakers elected in 2010 and something earlier, and you know, maybe some Democrats as well, but perhaps more Republicans, who are a little nervous about fees, taxes, however you want to interpret this, and that this show of strength was as much for House Republicans as it was for you guys in the press corps, right?
Oh, I completely agree. And the question was posed to Representative Dick Hess, who's the Republican chairman of the House Transportation Committee.
He was there.
Yes, yeah, and he was there, and he said he is going to back Senator Rafferty's plan. He's going to put his weight as chairman behind that, as well as Representative Mike McGeehan, the Democratic chair of the Transportation. He said he's going to get his Democratic colleagues to back this. I think both parties in both houses or both chambers know that this has to be done. The roads and bridges, there just is no money for. It's not tied to inflation.
Now, I always put you on the spot. Why stop now, right? But do you? This has a reasonable chance of passing, doesn't it?
You have anything out there, of all the big things out there, this one would be the most likely. Now, these House Republicans are, going to want to try to, a large group want to link some stuff like the Turnpike reform. Hey, if we want us to vote for this, and then there's another issue about using liquor revenue, as sale revenue as part of this.
And there's also there's always a dispute with Republicans, roads and bridges, and Democrats because of their urban constituency, Steve, on mass transit, right? So how they settle up with the money, who's going to get what, it has always been a little contentious. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Senator Wozniak, he's on the Democratic chair of the Senate Transportation Committee.
Senator from, do I got that right, Cambria County?
Yeah,
County.
he made the point that he's from a rural area, and this is not a rural-urban situation. He said that we have a lot more mass transit systems that travel these rural roads that need help too. So they were trying to make that point to stop that Philadelphia, Pittsburgh versus the rest of the state mentality that has existed for years here.
But both of you agree, of all these big items that we've talked about, liquor privatization, even the Turnpike, ending the Turnpike, folding it into PennDOT, pension reform, that this looks like it's on the cusp. If they do this, are they likely to do it before the end of the session, before the summer break, to put it accurately, in June? That's probably the wrap it into the budget.
That's hard to tell. One thing they haven't done yet is, I'm not sure how far the secretary is going around and talk projects in the districts.
Oh.
Now, they're supposed to put on their website the projects could be done under the Corbett plan, what could be done under the Rafferty plan. That keeps on getting pushed back. They're now saying mid-May.
Yeah, we're going to end this segment, but I think you would agree, lawmakers want to know what's in it for them and their district.
Yes.
Do I got that about right?
That is.
All right, thanks for coming in. All right, it's Financial Literacy Update Month. We're going to give you all kinds of suggestions about watching your wallet and your credit and all of that with the folks from the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association after we pay some bills.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the State System of Higher Education. 14 state-owned universities. The state system is the largest provider of higher education in Pennsylvania. And by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Well, it's Financial Literacy Update. We're going to get into a lot of good advice, so stay with us about how to handle your credit and all kinds of financial matters. Joining me, as often is the case, is Mike Wishnow. He's a Senior VP with the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association, and their Marketing Director, Jay Young. Welcome, guys. All right, Mike, I want to start with you. One of the things that we want to talk about, and I think this is pretty important, is we got young people, and they get out into the world. We have them in college. I'm a college professor, and what they know about finances and how they should handle all of their financial matters is important. Oh. So give us some hints or clues, better put, or advice about adults and parents and how they should venture into this whole business.
I guess to look at it in the broadest sense, financial education literally can begin as early as 3 or 4 years old with wants and needs. And it's a lifelong learning process that ends as one talks about retirement and as one talks about needs for housing at the end of one's life, or even estate planning and passing on money. Mm-hmm. The trick is, with financial education, to get the right information at the right time in front of the right audience. Yeah. And this is April, which is Financial Education Month. Governor Corbett declared it such, as did many other governors and have since 2000. Mm-hmm. And it's just a good time to remind ourselves. You know,
some of this, the survey information is remarkable. 53% of parents agree that their child thinks money grows on trees. Only 30% of parents said their high school offered a course on practical money skills. 76% of parents said their high school student does not have a budget. Go ahead, add to that.
Well, financial education does take place in the home for some kids. Yeah. Not all kids, and certainly not the majority. Likewise, there's some financial education in the schools, but some schools, certainly not the majority.
Well, you all have been working with schools, right? We've talked about that. Where are you on that? Give us a quick...
Well, through the Pennsylvania Credit Union Foundation, we help fund in-classroom education, and we coordinate having volunteers from credit unions work with schools to provide financial education in the classroom. Likewise, throughout the state, we've set up 47 student branches in high schools and secondary education throughout the state, actually giving students the opportunity to run their own branch.
Yeah. Now, if you were to talk to a parent and say, all right, what advice would you specifically give them about how talking to their kids about how to handle money and financial matters? Give us a couple of keys that you think are important.
Sure. Financial issues are very personal to us. Mm-hmm. And very few of us open up our checkbook to our children and say, hey, look, here's really what we face. And children need that kind of exposure. You have to talk about budget. You have to talk about wants and needs. You have to ingrain in your kids to set money aside. One of the things, and I think the key is for financial security, regardless of your income level, is live beneath your means. Yeah. Don't spend more than you have. I mean, it literally that simple of a conversation that doesn't occur as often as Jay said as it should. And
it's also the fact that there's sort of technical stuff like how to balance a checkbook, how to read the interest. Let's say you got a teenager and they have a credit card and there's interest, and you may put a max on how much they can use it for, but does that actually go on? I mean, I reared a couple of. I don't remember having. I'm probably at fault here, so you can help us all out.
Well, they still use checking accounts and they use debit cards, and some kids have credit cards along with their parents, and certainly they can have their own credit card. But it's important before they have all those things on their own, and you talked about when they're in college, it really should start before that. Learning about managing your money, learning about the balance between earning money, spending money, and putting money aside and saving it.
Right.
And it's essentially... It comes down to helping young people understand that there is a balance, and there is a need to save, and money does not grow on trees.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about the various aspects of this that credit unions are doing and other organizations to try to help make sure that young folks in particular have some better understanding of how to manage money, how to deal with financial matters, and we'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Hi, welcome back to the program. It's Financial Literacy Month, or as Mike corrected me, Financial Education Month. It's the same thing, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the programs that the credit unions have that are important, that get students and others, parents, to participate in literacy update matters.
Well, as Jay mentioned, we do have 47 in-school branches.
Right.
Those serve as laboratories for the type of work that goes on in the classroom, the curriculum that's taught in the classroom, typically to 10th and 11th graders. We are in over 200 of the 500 school districts in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. That number continues to grow. But we do a lot of innovative stuff as well. We're involved in doing some Hispanic language financial education in the Hispanic community. We're involved in a lot of the junior achievement men's and women's future symposiums. Jay, I think you participated in a couple of those, didn't you?
Yeah, that's a real eye-opening experience because we go through a budgeting process. We give them job titles. We tell them how much they're earning each month. We go through all their expenses. And at the end, you can see, were you able to save any money at the end of the month, or do you, in fact, are you living beyond your means?
Yeah, one of the other things is that if parents aren't teaching these skills, then how do kids learn how to handle their money?
Yeah, right. School of hard knocks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if parents aren't teaching it, then they have to get it in school.
Yeah.
If they're not getting it in school and parents aren't teaching it, guess what? They're learning by trial and error. And that can be a dangerous process.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, if they don't get the education early on, too often you see young adults terribly in debt, unable to manage their finances, and just struggling to get back.
So
to
your
level.
point would be that before they're even into the workforce, in some cases even out of college or out of high school, they've already gotten themselves into a fix because they don't have good money management skills.
Well, sure. And the studies show that the average college student has over $5,000 worth of credit card debt when he or she graduates, in addition to the student loan debt. So understanding how they're going to repay that debt and what that's going to mean for them in terms of their lifestyle is very important when they're accruing the debt.
Yeah. But I get the sense, we have about 30 seconds left, that you are pretty optimistic about the fact that you're making some headway in this. Is that correct?
We are. We are. I think with the foundation and all of Pennsylvania's credit unions and the whole coordination of both funding and volunteers, working with the local community as well as their members, the parents and the members, to reach their kids.
Okay.
I think we're making headway.
Great update. All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.